What's putting more stress on the job market, the actual deportations themselves or the fear that they're instilling in other workers?
Yeah, I'm glad to be here because just a few moments ago, the president getting off a plane in New Jersey said, look, I'm hearing from our farmers and our ranchers and the fear in the community. So just a few moments ago, the president actually said, I'm going to allow a process in which the employer, the farmer, can sponsor a work permit for their long-term undocumented employees, because this isn't just a workforce issue. This is a food security issue. We need the individuals that are doing the hard work. And like the president have said, have been here, many of them for 20, 25 years, and just not having the right documentation. And the president a few minutes ago just said, hey, let's look for a way in which the employer can sponsor them for their legal work permit. So we're very excited about that.
Well, Rebecca, we know that the U.S. workforce actually shrunk in May, partly because of a decline in foreign-born workers. Can you give us a little bit of insight into which industries that you are closely watching that are already feeling the ramification of these immigration policies?
Yeah, the undocumented workforce makes up only about 4% of the American workforce. But for certain industries, if you look at agriculture, hospitality, construction, healthcare, they make up between 20 up to 70% of those critical industries. And, those are major industries. That's our housing, food costs. That's the cost of our healthcare. And so to be able to have a process in which employers could sponsor a legal work permit for these long-term undocumented and contributing workers is the solution. And we're really glad that, the president, as he said a few moments ago, that's the direction we need to be headed. Not blanket removal of everyone. That's going to crater these industries and harm our economy.
All right, let's hear it. You've referred to the president's comments today a couple of times. Rebecca, let's hear what President Trump said a short time ago when he was asked about this.
I love them, and I'm never going to do anything to hurt our farmers. And you can also say the leisure business, etc. There are some businesses where you have a disproportionate amount of people that are the people that you're talking about. At the same time, we have to get the criminals out of our country. And we're looking at doing something where, in the case of good, reputable farmers, they can take responsibility for the people that they hire and let them have responsibility, because we can't put the farms out of business.
So there you have it, to your point, Rebecca. But the president also is touting a ruling from a federal appeals court that allows him to retain control of the National Guard in California, where, of course, some immigration protests were taking place. And he suggests this big win, as he calls it, means that other such deployments will be allowed in other cities around the country. What will that mean if we start seeing troops on the streets of Chicago, of New York, of Philadelphia, when it comes to immigrants showing up for work?
Yeah, look, the solution has to be some type of legal work permit. This president has successfully secured the border. The border crossings are down by 99.5% since a year ago. We've been pushing for sensible reforms for the last 15 years. And the number one thing we always hear from members of Congress is that we got to have a secure border. So the president has succeeded in doing that. And now this next piece, like the president just said, is that there has to be a legal pathway for people who are, yes, undocumented, but they're working, they're paying taxes, they're law-abiding, to get them out of the shadows and receive a legal work permit is the solution. And I think that is something that the majority of Americans support and care about, and we're excited to work with Congress and the administration to get done.
Well, Rebecca, let's build on that. What are the actual next steps here, and how realistic are they when we are looking at competing roles here between the White House and Congress? What actually needs to be taken next in terms of a tangible initiative or role going forward here?
Yeah, I think like the president just mentioned in your clip, that the employer can take the responsibility for employees, oftentimes that they've had for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. They're doing, the hard work of milking our cows or picking our crops. I know the president recently heard from dairy farmers. These are the mom and pop local farmers who may shutter their businesses just because of the aggressive ICE rates. And so this process would allow the employer to sponsor a legal work permit for their hardworking immigrant employees so that they can come out of the shadows, have a Social Security number, and legally work and continue to contribute.